If you've ever been on a lake when trout are taking traveling sedges or motorboat caddis, you know how addictive those explosive rises can be. You're going to want a great pattern on hand to take advantage of these fish, and my synthetic sedge, I think, will fit the bill for you. You know, the Mikulak Sedge has been my go-to big caddis pattern on lakes for many years. But it's fussy to tie. Seals fur dubbing, not always easy to get. Stacked elk hair, 3 wings. It's fussy, it takes time to tie. My synthetic sedge uses the same platform as the Mikulak Sedge as far as look, but it's way easier to tie and it's faster, so you can get on the water and take advantage of those explosive rises. So let's tie the synthetic sedge. I'm tying this on a Daiichi 1760 number 8. You could tie this on a 6 for the really big travelers, and you could tie it in smaller sizes, 10s and 12s too, to imitate smaller Stillwater caddis. For our thread, any olive will work. We're going to use a pale olive 8/0 classic waxed. We're going to start by attaching our tying thread just back from the hook eye, getting it started, and then trimming the excess. Got the thread hanging right halfway between the point and the back of the crushed down barb. I'm going to go back up to the front again, open wraps just to get there. And for the underbody, if you will, we're going to use some MFC Foto foam in mottled olive, 2mm. I'm going to cut a slip out of it. I'm going to tie it with the markings up. So I've got roughly the same amount protruding fore and aft. Just get that tied in. It's going to rotate a little bit. And then just secure this down the shank. It's just giving a little bit of added buoyancy to the fly. And then we're going to go back and forth a few times to further secure it and compress that foam down so it's locked in place. And this isn't so much buoyancy in the mid portion on the shank here, but where it sticks out. So we're going to come in and I'm going to trim this a little shorter on the front, and I come in and angle cut here, kind of like a Chernobyl, if you will. And on the back end, we'll trim it a little shorter. And then I like to come in and trim it on a bit of an angle, not to a point. So I accidentally cut my thread. It happens. But you can see with these wax threads, they hold their position. I'll just reattach the tying thread again. And secure everything down, including that little tag end. We're back in business again. It happens. It doesn't always go perfect. Not every YouTube video, I'll tell you, goes perfect. For the tail and wings, we're going to use some Semperfli poly yarn in medium dun. And I just removed a slip from the card, like so. Square the ends. Tie it in just behind the foam at the front and secure it all the way down. And make our cut. Now this cut's important because all other measurements come from this cut. So I wanted about just half the shank length or so, just like that, just a flare up, like so. For the body, we're going to use some straggle string, keeping with our synthetic theme, and this will be leaf green. You could also tie it in an olive green, whatever coloration you need to match the caddis or sedges on your local lakes. And we secure that along to about the 1/4 point on the shank. And we're just going to wind the body forward to the tying thread, tie it off, but do not remove it. Just fold it back, come forward to the midpoint of the shank, take another section of poly yarn, and tie it in place so it's about 3/4 of the length of the tail, like so, and secure it back. Trim off that, save it for the next wing. Move your tying thread forward to the mid portion. Forward to the tying thread, tie it off. Again, do not remove it. Take your tying thread up to about the 3/4 point. Find another section of the poly yarn. Tie it in place so it extends back about 3/4 of the length of the previous wing. Secure that back to where the poly yarn is hanging. Come in, trim. Take your straggle string, close touching turns, tie it off. Once again, do not remove it. Another length of the yarn. Tie it in place as with the previous applications. About 3/4 of the length. Bind it back. Come in. Trim away that excess. Like so. Now, we're going to tie in some legs on this fly. So when we strip this along the surface, we are going to get it creating a wake and look like a scurrying caddis. So for that, we're going to use some of the speckled Sexi floss. And I'm going to take 2 lengths. About the midpoint of the thorax, I'm just going to tie those in place on top. Slide one set of legs down to one side, one set of legs down to the other. Come up and bring your tying thread forward. Take your body material, free it up. I'm going to put a wrap directly in front, 1 or 2 in the middle. Tie this off. Weaving in around the legs, and now you can remove this body material once and for all. We can come in and trim our legs like so, and maybe back legs a little longer. There it is. He's tucked along. I thought he disappeared for a second, but he's there. So these legs, when you strip the fly, are going to kick and scurry. They're more to simulate the scurrying legs of the adult caddis than any kind of anatomical correctness. And then we're going to put one more wing in just at the front here. So we're going to take another section of the yarn, lay it on top. Be careful not to tie down another leg. A couple of wraps. I'm going to take my dubbing needle, or my scissors in this case. I'm just going to fold it over a little, form a little loop in it like you would a chubby Chernobyl. And that'll just bind down as well and stay on top. Come in and trim that. Similar length. Lift up my foam, Get that thread underneath. If you want, you could put a little super glue on that thread. Lift that up, get that in there. Whip finish. Disengage our whip finisher and snug it in. Superfli. And your synthetic sedge is ready for a swim.